Welcome everybody to today's workshop on the 7 steps to writing successful grant applications. I'm Liz Fleming, the Efficiency Coach, and I am excited to be sharing my process with you today. Before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please have yourselves on mute for the duration of the webinar unless I ask you to come off mute. This webinar will be recorded and sent to all registrants in the next coming days. If you have any questions, please write it in the chat, starting with the Q for Deb to collate. And also just a note on emails, because I do use the Eventbrite platform. Sometimes the emails don't come through. So I always encourage people for everything to just check that junk or spam folder every couple of days so you're not missing any important emails coming your way. Cool, so we will get started. So who here is a small business owner? Pop up your hand if you are a small business owner. Yes, we've got a few there. Now, who is already too busy in that business? Hands back up, yep. And who wears all the hats in your business? Again, tick, tick, tick for all those things. So what I find is that a lot of small business owners just don't know what's required when it comes to grant applications. The grant programs are normally have short periods of application, normally as little as 4 to 6 weeks. And we're already limited on our resources and our time. We're already wearing all those hats, and so we just don't get to them. Hi, I'm Liz Fleming, the Efficiency Coach. I'm a business grants coach, helping you to get the most out of the grant process and to better understand your business so that you're ready to apply for that grant when it comes out. I know we've got people online today that are representing community groups as well. I also do community group grants, and the process is exactly the same. You're just treating your community group like your business to better understand what your needs are, what your project is, and how you can best apply for that grant that may be available in your area or for your business or community group. Now, hands up if you've had a grant application not approved in the past, that you've missed out, that you've put all this time and effort into making the application for it to be rejected with no feedback. And nobody is talking about this, and nobody is helping you to work out why it was rejected or how we can write a successful grant application in the first place. So that's why we're here today, as I take you through my proven process that I use with my own clients. Now, yes, I'm happy to admit that I do love writing grant applications. I've had experience in managing government grant programs for a couple of government agencies here in Victoria in Australia. And I'm also very upfront about how strong your project or idea is for each grant program. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. So initially, we always have that conversation around what's the grant application? What is the fund? What's your project? Does your project loosely meet the objectives? And then we do an assessment together of whether that grant application looks like it could be a successful one. And if it's not, I'll be really honest with you, and we won't proceed. There might be some more work you need to go and do. We might have taken on too much and not be able to get the quotes and the letters of support or the information we need in the given time frame of the grant application. And so this is partly why I have an 85% success rate in writing grant applications. So I'm very proud of that. I work hard, and I really enjoy working with businesses and community groups to learn more about their businesses so that we can have a really strong grant application written for you and your project, so that we can have some money come your way. Now, my guarantee to you is at the end of this workshop, you'll have 7 clear steps to follow when writing grant applications. And the process I will outline is the process that I follow myself with my own clients. And it's all about streamlining processes. So let's go. Success. What does success mean to you? It means different things to different people, and it's all in the preparation for that great result. So it's really important to understand what the grant fund and the eligibility criteria and those, what's it trying to achieve? Does it align with what you're doing? Are you eligible? And in order to assess that, we need to make sure we gather all the information, we read through that criteria, we read through what's required in terms of what information are they requiring from us. So they may be wanting financial information, they may be wanting a project plan, they may be wanting a business plan. And do we have those documents at hand? They may want some letters from an accountant, whatever it might be. So it's really important to be really prepared at the beginning. And I always say to people, we need to be reading the eligibility criteria a couple of times. And then from there, we can draft our outline. This is basically the first sort of session with me where we can assess whether we're going to proceed with the grant writing or not, because it's really important. As I said, don't want to waste your time. We need to get really clear about what our project is and whether it's going to meet the objectives of the grant program in the first place. So definitely very important to get organised at the beginning. Now, applying for grants is a bit like applying for a job. You've got to know what your project is or what you're offering, and trying to match it up with what they're wanting as well. So what are the funds for? What are they happy to spend the money on? What restrictions are there? What does it exclude? Do you have your own funds? And all of those things need to be considered right at the very beginning. Step 2 is all about planning that work plan. So if we're going to proceed with the grant application, who's going to do what? What do we need to do? Who else within our organisation is going to be involved? And also who outside our organisation needs to be involved as well. So this is where I establish the checklist from all the components of the application. So that'll be all the questions, all the documents, all the answers we need to prepare, the letters of support, all that kind of stuff. So this is where we gather and create that work plan. Knowing who's going to be in your team, and having that important kickoff meeting, just like any other project that you would do, to work out the deadlines, what we're going to offer to people in terms of deadlines for their particular piece of work, to bring it all together and make sure that we can submit it on time. Now, when it comes to writing grants, it's also important to have someone on your team that's experienced or know what they're doing. And I always encourage people to at least engage with a grant writer in some shape or form. Doesn't have to be me, but make sure you find someone who has the skills and knowledge to help you with this process, that actually knows what they're doing. Now, the next step, this is what I do. It's quite detailed, and at this step, it really needs to be. This is what I do for success. It keeps everyone on track throughout the entire process. So this is where we're creating and designing their project plan for our project, for our grant application. So how is this project going to happen? We're going to allocate tasks and actions, and also work out our budget and what costs are involved, and all those sorts of things as well. So scheduling these priorities to map this all out is really, really important. Now, when it comes to grants, sometimes I feel like I have a skill in being able to work out exactly what they're meaning when they write some terminology within the grant application and the guidelines and the information that they give out. And this is where we need to work out how we're going to determine that, what we're going to work through, and who we're going to get it from. And same with letters of support. Letters of support are a supporting document that we can reach out to other businesses, other partners, other collaborators, and people that are going to benefit from this project if it was going to proceed. So these are a really key piece of your grant application to show that you just haven't come up with an idea and thought, oh, well, I'm going to get money for it and go ahead with it if it's, but if it's in line with other people, if the council is on board and things like that, it just gives you greater weighting to your grant application. I've had clients where we've written 4 or 5 letters of support, and that has absolutely supercharged our grant application ahead of others, because it showed that we'd done our research, it was a great idea, it was going to benefit a whole lot of people, and they were willing to and happy to support us as well. Same with the quotes. You know, we're all busy, suppliers are really busy, but it's really important. There's a lot of grants out there that will not accept an application unless you get quotes supporting your budget. So this is where it's really important to establish those relationships early and be ready for when those projects come up that you need to get those quotes, and being able to work with those suppliers to get what you need to submit the application. The tricky thing about quotes is obviously we're submitting an application now, maybe 2 or 3 months time before the application is assessed and we find out whether we're approved or whether we are rejected. And then also we may have to go back to the supplier in the current environment as well to see whether the costs have gone up and negotiate that as well. So that's why it's really important to know who you're going to go to for the quotes and who you're going to work with if this project was to proceed. So I'm not sure if you all know, but I'm also a chartered accountant. I've worked 15 years in corporate. So a lot of grant applications, especially the bigger ones, do require financial reports to be signed off by a chartered accountant, which is where I can do that for you as well as signing off statutory declarations as well. So, you know, I have a bit of an all-in-one service here. It means you don't have to go off to your accountant, don't have to go off and find a justice of a peace to sign those documents off or to acquit your grant as well. Now, GSD, get shit done. This is the real part where I help you to absolutely make sure that we've got all the components of our grant application that we need. Obviously, you, whether it's a business or a community group, you know it inside out. I need to extract that information out of you, and we do this together to make the best application that we possibly can. Now there's a step 5 out of 7. Now we're ready to start writing our draft application. So you can see there's a whole lot of planning, there's a whole lot of readiness we need to get done, there's a whole lot of negotiation and communication we need to get from other people. There's a lot of documents we need to collate, a lot of information we need to gather, and then we can start. It's a bit like an essay or an assignment, or as I say, a job application where we're gathering all the information, all our research, and now we're ready to write it. This is where the efficiency comes in as well. So this is where we go back to the application form, work out what key criteria we need to address and how we can best answer that. And the hardest thing with the key criteria and those questions and those answers is that quite often there'll be a word or character limit. So again, we have to be really smart about how we respond and how we answer those questions. And so my approach to that is you give me all the information, we brainstorm it all, then work out how many words or characters we have. I did one last week where the answer is only 2,000 characters. That's only a few paragraphs. So we really had to be very concise and very determined about what were the key points of our project to get across to an assessor that's going to look at these grant applications, have no idea who you are, no idea what your project is, and yet they're going to be saying yes or no to whether we're going to be approved or not. So it's a really important skill to have. And then it's also important at this point to check the assessment weightings. Again, a bit like an assignment at uni or somewhere where you go, well, where am I going to put my effort? Where's my energy going to go into this to get the best outcome and to be able to get that approval stamp? So this is where we write it, we've planned it, we've done our project plan, we've got all our documents all in a row, and now we're going to go back to the application form, which we normally do in a Word document, because then we can count the words and the characters, and then we can basically copy and paste the final version into the grant application portal to make sure we don't lose any data. I never type directly into a grant portal because it's just too nerve-wracking. Now, we're nearly there. Once we've, done our draft application, we've started it, we might have too many words, and we're really that brainstorming. What are we going to have in this? This is where we then overlay it with, well, what's our why and what's our story? Basically, you have to think the people assessing this grant application has absolutely no idea about your project, about you, about why you would be good to proceed with this project. So now we need to overlay that and write our draft application in a persuasive way, basically to say why our project is the best and with the most impact linking back to what the objectives are of this grant program. So again, linking back to what was that key criteria, what was the eligibility criteria, what are they trying to achieve, why is the government or the agency or the private funders giving out grants, what is it that they're wanting to see in the economy, and who are they trying to help. And then this is also where we need to include the benefits to the target audience as well. So again, what are the objectives? Who are they linking back to? And does our project directly link back to that as well? Because if it doesn't, it's going to be an absolute no from the beginning. But this is where we need to dream big, and we need to really put the best spin and telling our why and our story about why this project is absolutely needed and they absolutely need to fund it. That's my favorite part of the process. And now we're up to the final step. So this, as you can see, there are a lot of steps, there is a lot involved, but the earlier you prepare, the more ready you are, the easier it is, I promise. And now we're up to the final part where we are all good to go. And we always have someone else review that. So if I'm working with you, I'll get you to review it and we'll work together on that. If I do other grants for clients as well, I sometimes get some of my colleagues to review it or double check certain parts of it or read it through with them. And I'm always aiming to submit the grants 1 or 2 days before the deadline. One, just in case a quote doesn't come in or a letter of support or whatever, we're giving ourselves that day breather. Or if anyone gets sick, I did a grant a couple of weeks ago where I sort of got sick the last day that it was due. It was a bit of a stressful and panicky time, but we got it submitted, so that was the main thing. And even just tech issues. I've had people ring me like 10 minutes before an application was due and their computer's completely crashed. And unfortunately, a government agency is not going to care. So that's why we do need to, within reason, aim to press submit a couple of days before, and then we definitely won't be missing any deadlines. And it's really important at this point to celebrate the massive amount of work you've just done or we've done together to get that grant application in. Because it's like an exam, you finish it, you hand it in, there's nothing you can do about it. It's in, it's in the hands of the panelists, and quite often, sometimes there's quite a lengthy wait between submitting the grant application and finding out the outcome. And you basically just have to put it out of your mind until you hear back from them. So it's definitely important to celebrate with your team and, use it as a reflection time as well to really work out how you've gone on your business. What kind of impact is this project, if it was to be approved, going to make? And whether it's something that you can explore down a different avenue or whether this grant is the only way that it can be funded. So, yeah. So there we have it. We've got the seven steps to reviewing, to writing. The 7th step is the review, and there we've got the 7 steps to the writing successful grant applications. So now, if you can pop into the chat what your biggest takeaway from what I've gone through today was. Was there something that you hadn't really thought about that was really quite interesting to you? What did you learn? What was the number one thing that you've taken away from that quick presentation that I've just taken you through now? So if you can pop that into the chat and we'll have a wee discussion about that. Andy's saying great to see someone, great to get someone else to review the application before submitting. So a couple of reasons for that is obviously the content, but also things like grammar, and also double checking those word limits and things like that as well, and making sure that you're saying the most basic, because we find as business owners and community groups, when we've been on the committees for a while, there's intrinsic information that we just know. And when I work with clients, they skip over that. And I'm like, hang on, no, hold on, this doesn't make sense to me. And we need to go back to the real basics and write, this is what the business does. This is what this project is going to do, even though you've worked on this for years and years or whatever it might be. So that's why the review is really important for a couple of reasons. Writing the grant is the persuasive document, absolute, because this is the only opportunity you get. Quite often they don't want slide decks, they don't want videos. The written application is all they want. And so you've got to be as persuasive as you can within that document to be successful, and being prepared. So I've had a lot of feedback from others who have joined this webinar where they've gone, oh, I just thought I was going to write it the day before. And I have had potential clients ring me literally 24 hours before a deadline for a grant to say, can you please help me? We want to do this grant. And knowing what was involved, we had to get quotes, we had to get letters of support. 24 hours was just not enough. Yes, some grants you could write in 24 hours if it was just a document, but if you need external input, it's definitely important to plan it all out early. So as soon as you see a grant advertised that you think you may be eligible for, this is where I encourage people to give me a call, flip me an email. We can have a 10-minute free complimentary chat to work out whether you can apply for it or not, and then you can go from there. Because a lot of people don't have the confidence, they don't want to waste their time applying for a grant and then realize they can't. Let's do that bit together and then work out a plan after that, best for your business or community group. Susanna's saying how important it is to know what grants are out early, so you have time to get it done properly, and those documents. Yeah, so I've actually developed a program for businesses, which I'm going to adapt for community groups as well, where we actually spend 3 months together getting all those documents, actually planning out your project, getting all those quotes as if there was a grant, getting your business plan sorted so that when a grant does come out with a 4-week window, you're only tweaking around the edges and you're not having to like completely put everything else on hold to make that application. So right at the start, we all said we were busy business owners with no time, not enough people, wearing too many hats. If we're going to add another grant on there, job, but that's also where I come in as well. So you can hire me to write the grant for you and we do it together with minimal input from you to be able to maximize that. Because you know, there are grants out there. Yes, we're not eligible for all of them, and we've got to be very selective in knowing what ones we are eligible for, and being a bit strategic about it as well. But also I say to people, you've got to be in to win. If you don't put that application in, you're absolutely going to get no money. So we need to be prepared and we need to invest in our business to be able to write those applications to meet those deadlines, to be in to win, and also being able to plan out our projects properly. Within, you know, not being rushed, not being stressed within a 4-week period, taking our time, working with other business owners in my program to, you know, learn from each other, maybe even collaborate with each other, and we can really plan out some awesome projects that if a grant came up, we would be ready to apply. Also with that program, it might be that you don't, and a grant may never come up, but then you've gone through the whole project planning, getting all the quotes and realize actually that project is absolutely doable. I just need to find funds from somewhere else or get a business loan or create a new revenue stream or something to be able to still do the project. And we still haven't, you know, applied for a grant. The tricky thing is, you know, even when I was in government, we never knew whether a grant program was going to get approved or not. So it is really hard to know when they're coming out. And I will talk about that soon, about where to find grants, because there are a lot of portals, especially in Australia. And you've got to kind of be onto it to maximize the whole 4 weeks that it's there. Because if we find a grant with 2 weeks to go, we can imagine that that's not a great deal of time to write a great application. It can be done, but it's a lot more stressful. The more time we have, the better. So we've had a few questions come through. So if you're in Australia, but if you're in any country, basically just Google business grants and where are they? But in Australia here, I have listed a couple of directories. Some of them are free. Some of them you do need to subscribe to. A couple I subscribe to and pay for. And I will also share with you soon how you can get access to that and be first to know. So what I do encourage you, have a look at a couple of these ones. Grants Hub, Business Victoria and Business Australia are the government ones, which list a lot. Grant Guru and Grants Ready. You can actually set reminders, or just like looking for a job, where you can set your parameters and say, I want any grant that comes up within these. So if you're in Victoria or if you're in South Australia, you can tick that and you get email notifications for when grants come up. I got an email from one of these directories last week to say there's 1,500 grants available in Australia right now. So obviously that is across community groups and business. So there's money out there. We're just going to find the few or the one that we are eligible for and make that application. So that's the tricky part. But yeah, these are a good starting point to find grants in the first place. The other question I get quite regularly is, are there grants to help me start a business? So the short answer is no, mainly because it comes down to a risk factor. When it comes to government, they have a risk profile. They're quite risk averse. So they really want you to have a go at starting your business at the start. I mean, there are a lot of free resources and other things around there, but I always say to people, you can't start a business with less than $5,000 in the bank, and that's an absolute minimum, so that you can go and get some business coaching, you can have some strategy sessions, you can link in with an accountant, get some systems sorted, then also work out your products and your services and your market research, and then go from there. But I think it's more that the governments want to see that you've invested in yourself before they're going to give away grants that may not happen. I mean, at the end of the day, they want that money to work for them. They want that economy to grow. They're not just handing out money for the sake of it. So that's why there are largely very few grants to start a business. However, if you are looking at starting a business, there are such government programs like accelerator programs or startup programs that might be a 12-week program. So it's really your investment of your time, and you can do them. So that's a good way to learn about business, but not necessarily equipment grants or things like that as well. How are grants assessed is another question. Now, this is a bit tricky to answer in terms of every agency, every grant fund has different weightings, have different criteria. A lot of it is contained in the information pack that they do give you for each grant. So that's why it's really important to understand that from the start. And sometimes, though, they go through its first in, first served until the money runs out. Sometimes it'll be a ranking system. And so it is really hard to determine, but you don't just need to make sure that you are answering the question that they are asking in its entirety, sticking to the guidelines and basically doing as they say to have the best chance for that successful grant application. So if you've got any more questions, please do pop them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer it. So here's some businesses that I have worked with in the past who have been successful in their grant applications. And here's some of them, what they're saying. So Adam and Yuli, we're still waiting to hear about their grant application, but I worked with them as a business coach and wrote some grant applications for them. Liz was personal, on point and practical. Liz was with us and guiding us every step of the way, and we would never have been able to get the grant application submitted on time if it wasn't for Liz keeping us on track. So these guys have a wedding venue and a couple of other business ventures. They're real creatives. They've got great ideas. They've got great connections. But when it came to writing a grant, I really had to put in those deadlines, be in constant daily contact with them to make sure we were, they were getting the quotes and all that sort of stuff. And I'm proud to say we did submit that on time. Chris was successful in a $25,000 equipment grant for his cool room of his farm shop, which was really awesome. And it's just absolutely catapulted his business. It's made him more efficient. It's meant that he had less trips to the butcher to pick up his meat. And just all round made him look much more professional. And Ben and Jessie, clients of mine who the grant that they got for their equipment for a trailer meant that Ben could turn his side hustle into a full-time job. So that's really cool. And so that really sped up their business. They did have an existing business that they've expanded. So again, there was the, you know, they'd proved themselves, they'd put their own money in, and then they were able to be successful in a government grant. So if you do want to work with me, as I said throughout this, I do have a 15-minute call where we can jump on a call, see whether the 3-month program that I've got running is suitable for your business. Or if you want to have a chat about a grant that you may have in mind that you might want to apply for, and work out whether you're eligible for and what the best way to proceed with that might be, absolutely get in touch. I will just pop the link for that on the chat right now. So just click on that link, that goes straight to my booking program. I have some time tomorrow and Monday. If there are no times available, flick me an email. But if you do want to, or if you've got any questions, it is a complimentary 15-minute call. So jump on that link. Does anyone have any questions about anything up until now? Pop them in the chat if you do. And I've also created an exclusive Facebook group for clients and you know, people that come along to my webinars and I interact with, so that we can you know, connect with like-minded people. And here I'll be sharing tips about efficiencies, about grants, and other business-related content that may be relevant for you. So I will pop a link in the chat right now to join that. Obviously, it's free. You do have to jump onto Facebook to join that community. But there I will be sharing. So from now onwards, I will be actively searching out grants that may be applicable to businesses. And sharing them in here as well. And the idea being people can share other grants that they're going for and share with other people as well. So that's pretty cool. So we just had one question about the rates and things. So as you can imagine, each grant is different, and it does depend on the scale. Like I've done grant applications for applying for $25,000 where we've had to do like a 20-page application, included a business plan, included a project plan, financial reports, all of that stuff. Then I've also done applications for $100,000 where we had to write about 2 pages of answers. So it really depends, but I can say that my grant applications for businesses start at $3,000. And then for every time you work with me after that, you get a 50% discount because obviously we've already gathered the knowledge of your business from the first time. And also I have worked with businesses and not-for-profits that we've done the grant application together, and then after that they've gone on and done them themselves. So, you know, it depends on how you want to prioritize your time, what skill set you've got. But also my 3-month program that I run where we work together to get everything ready for you to apply for any grant for your business. So sort out your business plan, get your project plan sorted, all that kind of stuff. That starts at $6,000. So basically that's the cost of 2 grant applications, and we just go from there. So there's a couple of options. And I'm also about to launch a half-day 4-hour masterclass on where you can come and learn in more detail how to write grant applications yourself. So that is coming soon, and I will make sure that I send the information out to all my database so you won't miss out. So there's a few things happening in the space. And I think, you know, grants are an exciting place to be in because, as I say, if you're ready to apply for a grant, you know, the universe will provide, but also it may mean that we can explore different avenues for your business to grow, because that's ultimately the aim of all these grants, is that we want businesses and community groups to grow and prosper and to benefit their members. So yeah. So this quote that is about to come on screen, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So I think this is quite fitting when it comes to grants. It's all in the preparedness. It's all about being ready for when that grant comes through. And then it just opens us up to greater opportunities that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So thank you for joining me today. We are at the end of this workshop. I will be sending the recording with all the links to you all in the next couple of days. If you have any questions, please do get in touch. There's my email address, my phone number if you're in Australia, and also my website as well. So there's a couple of touch points. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to see you there. And I hope to talk to some of you soon. Don't forget to book in your 15-minute session with me. It's absolutely free, no obligation. It's just a chat about where you're at in your business and how grants may help you and what ones may be applicable to you. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.